This will be about the Taipei Public Bike Scheme. It's called U-Bike. And it's more like FU bike, really. It used to be better. What happened? Version 2.0 happened. In fact, I should say 2.0 since there is 0 point to it. What a downgrade. Imagine YouTube is U-Bike. Then you not only have to wait for the video to load before watching it, you also have to wait for it to unload afterwards before you're free to do something else with your life. If you stop watching right now, you're not allowed to play any other video for 15 minutes on the same device. Apples and pineapples, right? But when there is a will, there is a way. The way to make things better for the user. In the year 2023, the technology to do so is there. So what's wrong with U-Bike? It works after all. I use it a lot, and yes it does, but so did the original version, which was more reliable, better maintained, while also less expensive a decade ago. Whatever happened to progress? Let's find out. 1. The customer service and onboarding. Fatal error. As you know, I was in Zhongli before I came to Taipei, where I successfully used U-Bike 1.0. I had an account linked to my stored value card called EasyCard years ago. I didn't have to do anything since, besides topping up. It just worked. I expected nothing less in Taipei, but to my surprise, when I tried to rent a bike, I could not do it, because error card not linked to account. So I opened the app to relink the card, but I could not do this either, because error card already linked to another account. Of course, neither was true. I've only ever had one account, and the card had already been linked to it. Even if it were true that the card had already been linked to another account, they should have just let me unlink it in one go since I'm the owner and in possession of it. I wrote to customer service but got no response in reasonable time, neither an acknowledgement that I contacted them. In fact, I haven't got any response to this day. For the record, I wrote in Chinese, so it's not due to a language barrier, although they claim to provide service in English too. So I went to a customer service center to clear things up. Here it's my fault, I didn't notice the service center I chose, far away but still the closest, did not open on Tuesdays. I just didn't expect it wouldn't be open on all weekdays, so I just went there for nothing. Then I went to yet another customer service center, even farther, where the guy told me it's impossible there could be such a problem I described and was trying to convince me I just didn't know how to link my card, which shouldn't have been necessary in the first place. Incidentally, if you want to know why I didn't make a phone call, this is why. They would just try to gaslight me it's my problem and nothing would have been fixed. So, after demonstrating everything once again in front of a customer service agent, he conceded, pressed a couple of keys on his keyboard and told me to check back the next day. At this point, I got slightly irritated and pointed out to him it's very convenient for him to say this since they don't open the next day. In response, he told me that this is a common problem that happens, never mind he was just telling me the opposite, and it has to be resolved by some technician elsewhere, which will not happen immediately. I asked for a confirmation that I reported this issue, but that's not something they would provide. At this point, I thought I'd just have to work around this issue by getting another EasyCard. Normally not a problem, but I have a special and cute collectible Taiwan-shaped EasyCard, which conveniently is also smaller than the standard credit card size. I wanted to keep using that one because why not? Eventually, when I wasted a lot of time and lost all hope, the problem was indeed resolved a couple of hours later. Welcome to the world of U-Bike 2.0. 2. Where to and where from? The stations. In many cities around the world, public bicycles can now be left and picked up anywhere it's legal to park them. This is what a true U-Bike 2.0 should be about. Instead, just like with the original system, you are still limited where you can go to and where from, because you can only move between stations. Only now, the new stations are also not compatible with the previous version, which you have to take into account if you cycle between Taipei City and the surrounding municipalities, which did not fully transition to U-Bike 2.0. Anyway, among the stations I've been using, there is often the situation, depending on the time of day, that there are either no bikes at all, only empty stands, or the station is full of bikes and there is nowhere to leave yours. In the latter case, you can try to get a 15-minute extension to go to another station nearby, but often getting the extension fails since the system falsely claims there are free slots where in fact there are none. It appears this information is not updated in real time. 3. Grin and bear it. The bikes. I've been using U-Bike a lot. It is my observation that at least 20% of the bicycles have issues. I've had bicycles with gear and chain problems, unstable seat, no brakes, and even one where the front wheel nearly wouldn't turn. Most of those things can't be spotted when the bike is locked until you commit to renting it, and then you can't replace it since there is a 15-minute cooldown before you'll be allowed to rent another bike from the same station. Never mind that you already have to pay for the original rental. So in most cases, it's better to just grin and bear it. Separately, the rental console, which is now part of the bicycle, not the station, so you have to carry it around with you even though bikes still must be returned to a station, suffers from issues too. Problems connecting, problems reading the card. Even if it works, it's awfully slow. Mind you, we are in a country that manufactures the world's most advanced microelectronics and also a lot of the world's bicycles. The U-Bike hardware is supposedly provided by Giant, a well-known bicycle maker. 4. Burn fuel, save money. The pricing. Early on, renting used to be free of charge for the first half an hour. Then the noose started to tighten. The minimum charge is $5 now for really short trips, subsidized by the city government, or $15 for up to half an hour. If you cycle more, prices quickly go up. For example, for around 4 hours it will cost you about $100. Now, it's not a lot and I don't expect free stuff. But consider that Taipei is a huge metropolis. It does have a congestion problem and it does have a pollution problem. Anyone cycling is someone not driving a car, not riding a polluting scooter, and not taking up the space on public transit. From this point of view, it would make economic sense to pay people to cycle, even if it's difficult to set up the incentives in the right way. Long time ago, I used to ride a scooter for some time in Taipei. I can tell you, the fuel for it cost me about $100 to $150 weekly, and it was far from the most fuel-efficient scooter. I doubt the cost is much higher now. So when I'm in traffic next to a polluting scooter, taking a short trip that I'll still be charged $5 or $15 for, I can't help thinking that something is wrong with the pricing model if the rider next to me will eventually pay less for his trip with all the air and noise pollution he generates. Incidentally, in many cities with worse climate worldwide with actual winters, food deliveries are made on bicycles too. Here, as far as I know, it's all scooters. There are also discounts if you cycle and take a bus. An unintended consequence is that sometimes it could be cheaper to cycle one way than take a bus back rather than cycle both ways. Does that make any sense to you? To encourage people to fill up the space on public transit if they would otherwise be willing to cycle? 5. The downgraded experience. U-Bike in action. The system was very innovative when it all started in Taipei, but now it's lagging behind. It seems to me maintenance, customer service and repositioning efforts are all insufficient. U-Bike 2.0 improves nothing for the user. It's more like U-Bike 1.02. The biggest change is adding another way to pay so that the operator doesn't have to pay commission to EasyCard, the stored value card company. To begin with, first half an hour should be free as it was. It currently is, but only if you are already paying 1,280 Taiwan dollars for the monthly public transit ticket. Whatever you paid for U-Bike should discount your public transit fare beyond the $5 immediately after, as it does now. Further, the system should credit people with incentives if they reposition bicycles from a station that has too many to another that is empty, or if they report maintenance issues, or if they don't leave trash in the storage basket, which is the most common and annoying problem. From the top to FU Bike, the journey downhill. Will any of those things change for the better? I'm not holding my breath. It would be so easy to collect feedback from users after each ride, link it to the individual bicycle, station and stand, but the U-Bike operator just doesn't care. Besides, then they'd have to deal with the actual issues reported, so instead the process is as convoluted as possible. Who's gonna bother? And we can just pretend we're all good here, no problems reported. Did you know to report an issue, you have to type the bicycle number and the stand number manually? You can't just choose last rented bike or last bike I tried to rent, even though they already have all this data in the system and they have QR codes for everything else but not for this. Of course, the system is usable the way it is and still affordable, but one of the great things about Taiwan is that it didn't settle for mediocrity and has always had the ambition to make things world-class. Next to the world's best rapid transit system, the Taipei Metro, the public bicycle system could really do better than the way things are now. It's high time to change the name to FU Bike, as that reflects the operator's attitude to the users more accurately. The way things are going, U-Bike 3.0 will only have one wheel. U-Bike 4.0 will be just stations where you can pay to walk to and from on your own.